we get so involved in trying to change nature, we go against the very thing that's there to foster the positive, the beneficial development of everything in our lives, which is nature. We are back with another reflection on the Daily Vedantic. The reflection today is, this one's going to be a gift for all those out there that think that life is about doing, making, hands-on, gotta get it just right. And if I don't get it just right, it'll all fall apart, that was my entirety of my 20s. First, probably 12, 13 years of building companies was, if I don't do it right, then it's all going to fall apart. If I'm not in there constantly. This is for all the parents. I think that it needs hyper attention to every little detail of parenting for it to go right. Which all stems from an obsession and an attachment to certain outcomes. The gift is this poem that, when I first heard this poem and reflected on it, it was the antidote that I needed. I don't exactly know how. There's so many aspects of e-learning with the ashram that is that I reference all the time in the show notes. The link is there. There's so many aspects that it's so systematic. It's like it just unties knots in you without you even knowing that it's happening. And that's the case with this poem, which I'll read aloud. And never thought I was a poetry guy, but this poem really untied some knots for me around how I thought the world worked. So here we go. Said an ancient hermit bending, half in prayer upon his knee, oil I need for midnight watching, I desire an olive tree. Then he took a tender sapling, planted it before his cave, spread his trembling hands above it, as his benison he gave. But he thought, the rain it needeth, that the root may drink and swell. God, I pray thee, send thy showers, so a gentle shower fell. Lord, I ask for beams of summer, cherishing this little child. Then the dripping clouds divided, and the sun looked down and smiled. Send it frost to brace its tissues. Oh my God, the hermit cried. Then the plant was bright and hoary, but at evening it did die. Went the hermit to a brother sitting in his rocky cell. Thou an olive tree possessest. How is this, my brother, tell? I have planted one and prayed, now for sunshine, now for rain. God hath granted each petition, yet my olive tree hath slain. Said the other, I entrusted to its God my little tree. He who made knew what it needed, better than a man like me. Laid I on him no conditions, fixed no ways and means, so I wonder not my olive thriveth, whilst thy olive tree did die. Sabine Baring-Gould. That poem, it ties nicely to an episode we did recently on that which is forced is not forceful. It is pure arrogance to think we know what is best in every scenario. When we get so involved in trying to change nature, we go against the very thing that's there to foster the positive, the beneficial development of everything in our lives, which is nature, which is the natural path, our natural state. And it's our egoistic, arrogant, elusive view, this delusional view that we need to be involved for it to go right. I say, in the best case, you need to be completely involved, because in building startups like building Magic Mind, the first 2 years was just patiently asking, does the world want this? Do customers really want this? And do they want it like this, or should I tweak it over here? Is constant collaboration, with customers, with the universe? Is this wave worth taking? And a decade earlier, I would have thought, no, you just need to force something into existence. Come up with some big concept and you just, through sheer will, you create it. All by doing instead of sensitively listening. And even if you're right in the beginning, of just sheer willpower, the sad thing is, if it only exists with your willpower, then your willpower has to be a part of the biggest part of that equation over and over and over again every day, and it will destroy you. Versus the analogy I use so often, because I love it as a sport, love it as an analogy. Surfing is just you play your part, but you're riding nature. You're letting the force of nature do its thing. Maybe an even better analogy in this scenario is someone paddling across the ocean versus someone putting up a sail. One is exhausting and annihilating, and the other is like magic. One is going against nature, and the other is going with it. And who would choose to try to paddle from California to Japan if you could sail? It's the hermit thinking, I need to ask for every aspect it's required for this olive tree to grow, and it's the other one just letting nature do its thing. It turns out sailing is a lot less effort and a lot more fun. But it takes being aware that that's even an option for us to discover those two things. And this poem, The Olive Tree, is a visual I think about all the time. When I think about my relationship and dynamic with something that I want in the world. And even with selfish, egoistic desires, this poem, The Olive Tree, is such a helpful visual. And maybe it'll be a helpful visual for you. That's today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.